We're live. Yeah, they always count the last two as like two silently. I don't know why. Okay, so we're actually on air and we're actually on time, which is that'll never happen again. By the way, don't plan on that. But anyway, and so my name's Leslie Rode. I'm joined today by Dan Thies and the ever vivacious and somewhat more colorful Michelle Chan Sangfong. Dan does not believe in the use of color, and that's good.
I don't see color. I'm colorblind.
He apparently he is, and yeah, yeah.
I make up
Socially
for
and
your.
technologically. So.
I make up for that bandwidth, though, Dan. I try to have lots of color. So.
That's a very.
You had to tell me that my color wasn't working.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, got it. Okay.
Hey, everybody.
So this is an open Q&A call today. So we don't actually have a prepared presentation.
I have a question for you, though, Leslie.
Okay.
Did you see? It was posted on Search Engine Land a few days ago. But Adam Audette, you remember Adam from?
Oh yeah.
Doing SEO before they invented search engines, almost.
And then he was actually on the team that went public, with that little shoe company.
Yeah, so Adam was the guy that put together basically the first good listserv for search people and ran that forever, and he's with RKG now, and they did a bunch of fun testing on what does Google see when you do it with JavaScript, and so just a huge list that of what they published. I imagine there are other things they tested that just like didn't really rate to be in the short version of the story, but. All kinds of things like what can I do with links with JavaScript? What can I do with everything with JavaScript? And how does Google see it? And it's not a surprise that Google's rendering the freaking DOM before they actually do anything to index your page, because good. They're supposed to see the web like it actually is if they're going to do a good job. So,
Indeed.
But Adam posted a whole bunch of stuff on that, and predictably, many people are shocked to learn that Google can read their JavaScript these days, even though it's been that way since they started using the Mozilla bot, and it's more than it's not like it just happened this year.
Yeah, I'll have to go look at that link. I mean, it's depending upon what his test methodology is. I mean, it may actually be it's a question about whether it's indexed and how it's counted and all those other things, right? They could
when you read it, you'll have a pretty good understanding of
good.
He's not trying to hide how they did what they did. The only thing that's a little bit weird about it is that some of the stuff they didn't look at, but they may have looked at stuff that I would have looked at and just not published it. So, anyway, but for the people that are dealing with stuff on the technical side, it will certainly give you a little bit more faith in terms of, will Google forgive me if my menu is in JavaScript? Well, yes, probably, as long as you're not doing it some crazy weird way. But if you're using jQuery or any of that stuff, it pretty much should roll.
Yeah, we know that. That's interesting because it almost, if they're doing it the right way, which I presume they are, it's like they do have hundreds of PhDs. It wouldn't matter like what libraries you use or how you did it, right? If you use CSS, you use JavaScript, whatever, right? They're gonna quote unquote see it. The open question is, and I'd really be anxious to read Adam's stuff because he's not, he's a pretty smart guy. Is how they determined, how they got to the real answer, which is what is Google actually doing with it? How are they treating it? Because there's a whole bunch of different, things that they could assume about it if it's served up in JavaScript. Are they treating it as followed, no followed? Are they treating it as an accessibility issue as opposed to something that everybody should see? It's like I think there's an interesting set of things there. And they do get it wrong occasionally. I mean, this has been some years ago. The last time I went to, presented at SMX in New York, Eric Engie had found what I considered, frankly, kind of a bug in the way they treated no index follow, right? So no index. When you look at it, Like no index follow really doesn't make any sense.
No, because it should be the same thing. No index should pretty much end that conversation.
Well, but what we figured out is like, oh, no, what they mean is don't index this page, but follow and index all the others. Knock yourself out. And for a while there, Eric was actually building like an entire consultancy around this. I mean, he was.
Well, we used to build these crawl pages with no index on them all the time.
Yeah, but follow into the others, right? And so then the question came up, and we couldn't answer this one at least at the time. And I can't remember what year this was. You know, those Braintrust have been reused long ago. But it was like, okay, well, what if you do no index, but you don't specify follow or no follow? I'm not sure, right? What's the default for if you have a meta robots that says no index? Is the default follow or no follow? I don't know, and it's probably changed since then anyway. So anyway, you know, Carlin actually has a question here.
Yay!
Well, let's do that. Thank you for saving us.
And Carlin, that name is familiar. I think she may actually be in the client. He, she, whichever. Carlin's kind of like Leslie. You never know. So I am trying to understand how best to use categories and tags properly on WordPress. Oh my God, yes, we need to do some.
Leslie's favorite question.
Pretty close. I just noticed that one of our SEO clients has 1,700 tags. Yeah. Sort of missed that.
Is that a new record?
No, it's not actually.
No.
Exactly. So no, actually, if
there are plugins that will make a tag for every word you've used.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the ones they did intentionally, Dan.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah,
you're
right.
That's 1,700. That's nothing.
That's chump change.
Better than that. I
Chump change.
That record.
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, actually, the so far the record of the ones that were manually created, not the ones that were like the auto plugin thing. It was 2,500 tags on 500 posts. I rounded off slightly, you know, but it was something like that. So a 5-to-1 ratio. By the way, that's horrible. You don't do that at home. Actually, don't do it anywhere at work either. Let me
only to your enemies.
Well, unless the boss says so, and you know, then it's a political decision, a business decision to go ahead.
What is that? Hippo, highest paid employee, or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever. I don't live with hippos anymore.
Yeah, but let me actually, yeah, right. In order to ask Carlin's question, let me verify something right quick here. Because if I have the real website, that would make this even more. Yes. Okay.
So Leslie, there's one other part of this question that makes me nervous. And that's, I assumed it was a good idea to use categories for siloing content. So let's make sure that we don't forget to address that.
Yes, agreed.
Article of faith there.
Yeah. Okay. In fact, you know, this would actually be a good job for the whiteboard. But so first of all, let's start where let's start at the other end of the spectrum from, gee, how many tags can I use? And answer the question, should tags be followed or no followed? And we get this a lot too. It's like, oh, well, tags and categories are going to create duplicate content. No, they're not, unless you've misused them horribly. So if you have, right? And so if you have 10 posts and 10 tags and 1 post per tag, you got a problem. Yeah, you have a duplicate content problem. You also have a, how do we say this in English? The opposite of intelligent problem.
A unique tag for every post, one. If you've only got a tag on 1 post, that's probably not something you want unless you've got a plan that you're going to add more posts to have that tag on them, like it's a new subject, right? So if it's a new news story, you might put a tag on it for, Texas tornado or whatever, and then plan to write more. But normally that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I mean, when the 2016 Olympics come around, you're going to do that first post about the Olympics, right? And so there's going to be 1 post and it's only that 1 post has that tag, and so the tag page has exactly that 1 post on it. So you think, oh my God, horror of horrors! I've got 2 pages which are essentially duplicate. I've got my perma page, which is the 1 post on it, and I also have a tag page that has only that 1 post on it.
Now, on the other hand, if you wanted to write an excerpt for every post, or create one, then your category and tag pages could have just post excerpts, teasers, and they're not even a duplicate of the content of the post in the first place.
That's true, and what we recommend is that your so-called archive pages specifically do not have full content. They should be so just like your homepage. And some people, some people do this wrong too. When we do onboarding with new content marketing clients, one of the things we look at, we have a checklist. I don't know how many points there are. I should come up with a number of points because it would sound, impressive. Let's call it 27. I can come up with 27, I'm sure. Whatever. And so our checklist, one of the things is, are you showing excerpts or full posts on your archive pages? Now there are three kinds of archive. That's not actually there are probably some more, but there are three primary kinds of archive pages in WordPress. One is your home page. That's a special archive page. The other ones, the common ones, are category and tag. Reality, you can also make author archive pages, but don't get me started on that. You can make an archive page out of anything you can search for in the Google database of content. WordPress database of content. All right. So but the essence is a category page. And to Eric's question, think of tags as similar to long tail. Well, kind of. Tags and category pages should be really good attractors for what I would consider mid-tail. So it's those things like if you're selling pool supplies, okay, that's your homepage. If you're selling pool chemicals, that's probably a category. If you're selling this particular kind of chemical and how it works with above ground versus in-ground pools, that's long tail. Is that going to end up in the chemicals category? Absolutely. Is it going to be simultaneously tagged above ground? Good idea. You see, so you've got a couple different ways to get to the same piece of content. So posts are basically your long tail attractors. Categories and tags, mid tail attractors. Homepage, your short tail, if that makes sense. But to your question, so there's a couple different questions, and Dan, correctly, yeah, wow, this is the whole siloing thing. So let's talk about what siloing means, right? And let's see if I can talk about it in such a way that this time that the blogosphere doesn't hammer me because I was saying something bad about Bruce, which was never true, by the way. Bruce is a great guy. And so,
I bet Bruce bought you a beer after, so who cares? You got a free beer.
I don't know. I can't actually remember now the amount of alcohol was consumed, whether,
Well, you don't go to search engine conferences.
Yeah, for Bruce Clay, I don't know if Clay's ahead or I'm ahead. Who knows? Who cares, right? But here's the thing. Siloing has a couple of several different meanings depending on who you talk to. So let's treat that in just a moment. But first recognize that if you have this situation like, one client I just found that we've got several hundred posts and 1,700 tags, or 2,500 posts and 2,500 tags on 500 posts. Right. That's misuse of tags. In this one particular case, literally, tags included New York divorce lawyer and divorce lawyer New York. That's real hard to say than I thought it would be. Those are not. Or the other problem, you can do it accidentally. Uppercase and lowercase are a different tag. You can do this accidentally if you're not careful about managing your taxonomy. All right. People all the time want to say, oh, well, I want to target this, I want to target this, and I want to target this, and tags are a great way to do that. Wrong. Don't do that. That's keyword stuffing. All you're doing is creating a doorway page using tags. And so maybe you wrote, like, okay, so we could post something tomorrow about, let's see, what's trending in the news. What could I write about that's completely useless that we would never write about again? I don't know. What did Lady Gaga do recently? Okay. And I could tag the post with Lady Gaga. I don't intend to ever do that ever again. Actually, I don't intend to do it the first time, by the way. And so should that be a tag? No. A, it's probably in the title, and it's somewhere in the body. If Google thinks that that's an important post to surface for Lady Gaga, God bless them. But I don't need to target that. I don't need to keyword stuff for that, even if I wanted to rank for Lady Gaga. Okay.
Well, the only reason to use a tag like that is if are you going to have multiple pieces of content, and would your users want to be able to go to click that tag, go to a page where you've got all of your Lady Gaga stories there, and they can read all of your Lady Gaga stories. If that's something that you think makes sense, like your users would want that, then make a tag and make that content and make it work. It's really that simple. Just make the decision based on, do I need this for my users?
Exactly.
Don't think of it as an SEO question, period, because it's not. If you're doing it for your users, that means you're going to be supporting them with enough content, and you won't have to worry about whether the search engine thinks it's duplicate content, because it won't be, and that won't be the problem. It'll be good content and stuff people want. So, there's no reason why a tag page or a category page couldn't rank. In fact, they do all the time.
Right.
Right? But that's because there's lots of good stuff in there that people like, not because you made it and tagged it a bunch of times.
Yeah, and so, indeed. So we shouldn't be posting about Lady Gaga. And if you have a celebrity news site, Lady Gaga is probably a tag. Hell, it might even be a category, depending upon, kind of the group of celebrities you are, kind of, surfing on. But so if Lady Gaga said something about SEO, like SEO is just like that raw meat dress I had, I don't know. I'm making that stuff
You're
up.
pretty well informed, Leslie. I'm kind of sitting over here impressed that you even know about the raw meat dress. I got to tell you.
It's all over those interwebs. But
biggest Mother's Day mistake Leslie ever made was buying that raw meat dress.
I thought it was in. Who knew? Anyway, so so if you're writing a celebrity blog and Lady Gaga is a category, and she says something about SEO, probably about me in particular, right? No, don't tag the article SEO, because guess what? You're never going to write about that again. She only met me once in person, so that was it. And so those are things that you got to look at. Tags and categories are about human navigation. It's about increasing the engagement people have with your website. And yes, oh, by the way, end up being mid-tail search phrases, but if you think about it that way, you will go off the slippery slope into the crevasse. It's over there. So, yeah. Dan, anything? Michelle?
I don't want to go off the slippery slope.
Yeah. So now let's talk about siloing. Should we talk about that, Dan?
Absolutely.
Yeah. The silo thing, I'll go ahead and fully confess. Before I actually bothered to read anything and just went with what was working for me, I believed in organizing my website around tightly focused themes and stuff like that, because, well, it made sense to do that from a user perspective, so convincing myself that it was also useful for an SEO perspective was nice and made my life easier. But the fact is, it was doing no such thing.
Yeah.
And you still see that sort of that religion persist today, and there's there's this whole elaborate I'm sure there are different factions now of what's the right way to do siloing, and there's probably the people that'll split at the second tier, and people that'll split at the third tier, and people that will never cross-link here and there, and I don't know. They I'm sure one day we'll see them meeting in battle to decide the matter once and for all, and or maybe they'll all realize that it just doesn't work like that. Google is ranking pages, and so does what's around the page matter? Yeah, what links to the page helps it. And what the page links to might help or hurt it, depending on what kind of stuff you're linking to, but it's never going to go any farther than, what about this page? If I send somebody as the search engine to this page, is that going to get them closer to the answers that they seek? Because that's the only question search engines are trying to answer, not is this page as tightly themed as that one. They don't care if there's other stuff on the site that isn't relevant to this at all, and they don't care if stuff that isn't completely tightly in with this is linking to it. It's not going to hurt you, and so build the darn thing for people, and just let the spider crawl the damn thing.
Yeah, and so let's discuss the two ways people have characterized siloing. Okay, and so
one of them makes mathematical sense.
Exactly, and yeah, very nice segue. Thank you, Dan. And so, so let's talk about what does siloing look like. Well, silos are tall, skinny things. I grew up in the Midwest, right? So I know what silos are. I've actually played in them. And so you have your home page, right? And actually, I need to look and make sure. Yeah, okay. I'm zoomed in, which is not normal for my whiteboard discussion. So I have to, And so let's go ahead and say we're doing pool supplies, just because it's kind of fun, and we have chemicals, and we have pumps.
And you have a pool, so you know this stuff. You're like an expert.
Sadly, more so than I would like to. Yes, right. So, yeah, it's a hole in the water. Wait, it's a hole in the ground. Anyway.
That has some standing water in it.
That you pour money into.
Yes, you do. And so, really
and a
fun,
lot of chemicals.
This is true. And so, we think about these silos as being, okay, well, there's two ways to think about this. And I think my autofocus is good.
Yeah, I was going to say autofocus is happening there for you.
It's like, and I really need to, if there was like the perfect web camera, this would be great, but so far I haven't found one. So bear with me just a moment.
If only we knew engineers that knew how to create things.
We do, but they don't have any time. Anyway, so the idea is like, all right, so if I have a whole bunch of content related to pumps, that's a good thing, right? I have a whole bunch of pages. There's probably an internal hierarchy here, about different kinds of pumps and whatever. And then there are two different notions around silos. And this one was math, and then the other one, and this is where people went really off the rails, is this completely unproven, unquantifiable idea of theme. And so from a math perspective, if I can manage the authority that I'm distributing within one area of my site, separate from the authority I'm distributing within another area of my site, then what I can do is I can balance what's my ROI in one versus the other. Okay, so here's watch this. So pumps are basically $500 and up, and I'm saying way up. Okay, whereas chemicals are like $5 and up. Some will be a little lower than that.
And the shipping costs a lot.
Yeah, that's true, by the way. But here's the thing. Actually, I'm not sure which is worse. These pumps are not like. Anyway, point is, you think, oh, well, okay, this is my better market, right, because it's a higher ticket item. Wrong. Except for some of us, you never buy more than one in your life. These things, it's all the time, right? Monthly, like buying dog food.
Recurring.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I know who buys pumps all the time, and it's not the person that has a swimming pool of their own. It's people that are repairing them.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, true, different market. So,
yeah.
What is it if you were to say, well, where should I focus, the ranking power of my website? You have to figure out where's your best opportunity is. Okay, so that's kind of the math analysis where we could say, hey, it's a sculpting question, right? Where do I want more content so I get more authority in order to rank for these shorter tail phrases around any particular product category I have? That's one use of sculpting where you don't necessarily put a firewall here, but you control the amount of page rank you distribute between sections. That's a complicated question. The simpler question is the one that's frankly wrong, which is the notion that I can't rank for pumps if it's cross-linked with chemicals because I've diluted my theme. And that's wrong. It is 100% wrong. There's no foundation for it. There's no patent that says that. There's nothing that Google has ever said that. It's just completely made out of thin air by someone who needed to publish a book. Okay?
Google is... Are you talking about me?
No, not you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. I'll blame it on somebody else. Good.
Okay, yeah. That page right there is going to rank not because of the cluster of pages it's in. This rank it's not ranked because of the theme of that cluster of pages. It's ranked because of really only a small number of things. One is page rank, right? And we did this talk, I don't know, a couple months ago in the Hangout. And then the other is link text. And there may actually be some effect where stuff around the link text, okay, admittedly, right? So there may be linked text with surrounding words. I mean, Google has talked about that. I personally don't think it's real. I think that was just some grad student that needed to do a dissertation.
When I can get something to retrieve based on that, I'll believe that they rank based on that. So
bingo, exactly, right. But this whole notion that a cluster of pages influences how that page is ranked, no foundation at all. Zero evidence. Certainly in search there's zero evidence, and there is zero evidence in the academic literature that anybody has ever thought that would even work, let alone is using it. So, 2 ways to think about siloing. 3, actually. 3 ways. One is this whole theme thing, which is totally wrong, and people have said, oh, you're blasting Bruce Clay. Bruce and I have talked about this. No, I'm not. He's never said that this was really going on. He wasn't talking about themes. He was talking about the right way to use theme, which is how should you organize your site from an information architecture? How should you do it for humans? That's all he was saying. In terms of the math, I think I'm the only one who's ever talked about that. So those 3 ways, the ones that are true are think about the user in terms of the linking that they really need, and think about the math if you want to go completely crazy. But don't think about the theme. That's true. It's just completely crazy.
Yeah, I didn't invent themes, but I did have to write a book. So that's what I talked about. I didn't want to write the book. The survey said I had to write a book about SEO. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? You write a book. Give people what they want, right? So that was kind of, I mean, admittedly, that was a long answer to that question, but I think
we should really figure out how to get that focused in and you know, maybe post a picture or mail a picture out of that whiteboard drawing because it's not focusing enough on the webcam.
I know. Yeah.
So take a picture after. You can send it to everybody.
That's a good idea. Excellent. Good choice. And I need to find a better camera. I mean, this is the best one in terms of reviews, but yeah, it just doesn't really do it for me.
No, you look very fuzzy.
Yeah. Auto doesn't work well. Fix doesn't work very well. It's like, okay, nothing works very well.
I know, and I look awesome, which is weird.
In black and white. Okay.
I look better in black and white.
You know, so tags and categories. I mean, in terms of don't underuse them. That is, don't follow them. That's bad. And Carlin, if you are who I think you are, we're going to fix this for you in month 1 anyway. The second thing is don't overuse them because that's bad too. And the third thing is about siloing. Is that yes, we want to have a sense of siloing in terms of usability, in terms of engagement. For most people, the math, option 3 was about the math. If you're anything less than 10 to 20,000 pages, it's not even a topic of discussion. I will not have the discussion with you. If you're beyond 20,000 pages, on a case-by-case basis, we can talk about it. Where I usually will say is yes,
million pages.
Yeah, million pages, and there are lots of people like that. If you have beyond 100 between 100,000 and 250,000 pages, depending on your market, you know, that's where PageRank sculpting really comes into its own, and it still works despite the stuff at SMX Advanced a few years ago. So, wow, that was a long answer.
It's your favorite kind of answer.
Yeah. Let's see.
Good.
Andy. I got a question, folks. 2, actually. I bet you have more than that. Okay, come on. We all have more than that. First one. How would you test whether entering a new market is worth it? Wow. Okay.
Good question.
That's a Leslie question.
It is?
Well, I don't want to answer that question. That sounds like strategic stuff that I can't afford to get my brain too strategic right now. I've got too many AdWords accounts to work on. But the next question is about AdWords, so I'll be able to answer that one, I hope.
All right, so you need a break. And so Michelle and I'll have to carry the water on this one.
Yes. Michelle's actually entered new markets more times than I have, I think.
It's possible. It's possible. It seems like we did that for quite a while, for many years there. Well, I think, really the very first question is what is the cost of entry into that market? Right? Because there are some markets that don't require a whole lot of entry, but then again, there may not be a whole lot of reward. So will that return be worth whatever that cost of entry is, depending on the market size? And then that goes back to, well, how do you know what that is, right? And so for me, it always had to do with how many competitors do I have? What is my possibility of investment? How much can I afford to lose? And those may not be great math. Leslie may have different math, but I most always went back to how much can I afford to lose to try this. So that's probably terrible, but that's the way I always looked at it.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, that's a good start. You definitely have to pay attention to that.
That is definitely a healthy entrepreneur's perspective.
Yeah, you got to know that. No doubt about it. Part of the problem there is, I mean, that used to work actually 100% of the time, Michelle, by the way.
And it doesn't anymore.
No, because you could actually do real competitive analysis. I mean, I was just asked this by one of our private clients yesterday, yesterday. It was Tuesday. I actually don't do consulting calls on Sunday, strangely. But his question was, what do we use for competitive analysis, blah, blah, blah. So don't bother. Right. So the problem is, way back in the day, when I adopted Lincoln Up to Spider, and we had every 6-week coordinated dance, you had a snapshot of everybody on the web that was rolled out to all the data centers. And so you could actually look at everybody and compare, what are they doing and how do they get to their ranking. Now the problem is you've got multiple algorithms running on different schedules and running at different times on different groups of pages, not even groups of websites, which would be, literally it's like half of your website and 13% of that one and 7% of this other one. They all somehow, because of their linking structure, get combined into that one page rank dance. And that doesn't even go into, the way link text is, is done, and all of the other, filtering algorithms. So the fact is, you don't actually have a coordinated picture of the web in order to do competitive analysis. You know who your competitors are. Well, they're listed there in search. Got it. But you don't know what they're doing. You don't know why they're ranking where they are, and that's even just search. Let's not get into, paid and social. So how do you actually do competitive analysis? My position is you can't. What you do is you go buy data by entering the market. Now, here's where we mix something old and something new. And I don't think I've got something blue and something borrowed. I think those are the other two things I need to get.
Shirt isn't blue, and I bet you borrowed that set of headphones from somebody.
No, those are mine. But anyway, what we do is exactly what Ed Dale and Frank Kern did in the dog training market. I know this is me going way back. Okay, if you want to test the market, figure out not what your investment might be or could be or should be. Figure out the smallest it can be just to gather real data about the market. And what they did was literally, they said, okay, well, dog training. Lots of people have dogs. Okay, cool. And they looked at ClickBank and they found, hey, there's books on dog training. Great. Let's run some PPC ads at those dog training products and see what works. And so they evolved their messaging to the point that they could actually make money in AdWords. Now, this was a long time ago. Don't try this at home. And they, cool. All right. So now what do? Now we commission somebody to write a dog training book. God knows Ed and Frank can't. And so, bingo, now they've just doubled their profit margin because they cut ClickBank out of the deal. And so they found a very low cost of entry to test a market. I emphasize test. Could very well be, depending on what the market is, you're not ever going to make any money with the business model you enter with. And that's okay. If you think that there's a possibility of a big play, then find a way to test using a related product or a smaller product, minimal product, whatever.
Well, if you've actually got a sense of some unique value proposition that you can bring to market, you can simply run ads at people and ask them if they'd be interested in buying that. Mm-hmm. We back in 95, 96, we were running banner ads about a grocery delivery service that hadn't been launched yet, and partly based on the response of people that gave them an email address to say, yes, tell me immediately as soon as I can buy this. They gathered email addresses and zip codes and built a big O database. And based on the strength of that, they said, yeah, this is going to go great. Then they sucked at execution and couldn't do it for, if it had only cost 10 times what they thought it would cost to actually have somebody go pick good carrots out of a produce aisle and put them in a bag for somebody that you're going to deliver for next to nothing. But the surveying told them that people wanted the service. They just completely botched the idea of figuring out how to do it effectively.
Indeed. Yeah.
You can survey, and by the way, there's Google surveys out there that you can do that target by demographic, and just you only get to ask one question, but you can do it for pennies per response. There's lots of ways to do market research these days that you can turn out overnight what used to take months to plan.
And it's not theoretical. That's the other thing. If you hire a market research agency, and Did once.
Man, we should get into that business.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's completely ridiculous. Frankly, you can't even know whether the answer was right or not.
Slap together some spy-free reports and call it good.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Isn't that all they do anyway?
Actually,
I'm sure there are some out there that will be offended by this, but all the rest of them do exactly that, yes.
Yeah.
And if you're offended by this, good job. We'd like to get to know you.
Exactly, because you're at least not horrible.
So tell people about.
Yeah.
Nice
So
words.
ultimately, when you're first starting out, even if you have the best thing and you absolutely are certain, right, that this is going to work, you still buy data initially. You're buying data in the first. If you've never run AdWords, it's like, okay, let's say you're a cosmetic dentist. You know there's a market for cosmetic dentistry. That's not a question.
We buy data in our AdWords accounts all the time, Leslie. I mean,
Absolutely.
right? We decide how much we're going to spend every month buying data about one thing or another. But certainly at the beginning, the data that you're buying is more valuable than anything else that you're paying for there.
Right. It's
more valuable than the customers and the sales that you make. I mean, it really is.
And it's not even.
It's going to serve you for a lot longer than that one sale.
And it's not even just it's not even just advertising, by the way. I mean, if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was told by his rich mentor, to go to work for somebody successful for free. Why? He was buying expertise. He was buying experience. He was buying the right mindset to be successful. How else are you going to get that? You can go try to do it yourself. Good luck for that. With that, right? But the reason people use mentors so they can shorten that cycle. And yeah, you were basically buying. I mean, it's like it doesn't matter what you're trying to be successful in. One way or the other, you buy it, right? And
right.
So it's like, that's the thing. It's like, okay, well, he was a gold medal swimmer. He bought that. How did he buy it? Well, he practiced more than you. He spent more on coaches than you. You buy success. Just get over it. You buy success. You can say, oh, that's unfair. It should be about the money. I got news. It's about the money. It's either your time, which is money, or it's actual money and your time, which is money.
Period. I mean, there's no way around that. That's any of the things. And and we've been testing markets lately, and we see things that are just like crazy good, and we see things that like suck. And we kind of expected it to be just exactly as opposite of that, and it was not. And all it took was a few $100s to test at a product level with some ads. Pictures and ads. So, and testing responsiveness. I had someone ask today, I was at a luncheon, and they said, well, how do you know what kind of device your audience is in? I said, you run ads.
You review the results.
You run ads and you find out. And, you can export this data out of Facebook, and I can tell you across the 5 segments whether they opened it on a phone or on a desktop. Really? Yeah. But you got to run ads to do that. It's not just free data.
You see, that's what they see. What they meant to ask was, how do you know in advance of spending money?
Yeah, there's no such thing.
No, that's the thing.
I mean, there's gut. I mean, we take risk, right? I mean, that's probably one of my strong suits as an entrepreneur is I'm really willing to take risk, and I'm willing to take risks with my own money and try things and see if they work. But I also was never willing to put my house on the line for that either, because I wasn't ready to be homeless for being an entrepreneur. There's completely different. Some people are different than that, but there's somewhere in between. There's a good balance for everybody, I think, and so it does come down to how much money are you willing to put out first to see. But just test it, test the data, find out.
Yeah, Chris Goward has a good way of looking at it, and he does stuff about landing page tuning and testing and stuff like that. But if you think of everything as, I'm forming a hypothesis, then I'm going to test that hypothesis, and I'm testing it, in this sense because I believe that an affirmative answer that's the correct hypothesis is actually a very, something that'll mean something useful to my business. We've got a client testing the order of choices that they're presenting to people on checkout when they're buying products, right? They're going to be starting to test soon, and the reason why is we have a hypothesis that changing the order, moving things into a different order, will increase conversion. So we're gonna spend some money to test that. We're going to spin off some of our profitable traffic into this checkout funnel that we don't know if it's going to be more or less profitable. And so we're spending money there to buy an answer, to buy the data that will help us test that hypothesis.
Right.
Because we believe that's going to win. The same thing, I believe that if I show this Facebook ad to women from 30 to 54 that live in Orlando and take them to this landing page with this offer on it and this other stuff on it, that's going to work. Then I might find out that, well, gosh, the targeting was good. They all clicked and they were very interested. My landing page just didn't do a very good job of persuading them. Or maybe the landing page did really well, but gosh, this click-through rate is lower. I bet I can improve the targeting.
Or you go back and you found out you left one of the boxes unchecked and the ad wasn't really running like you thought it was.
That would be hilarious if it happened to somebody else.
Yeah, only when it happens to somebody else is it hilarious.
Only mildly amusing when it happens to you.
Yeah.
Eric had asked something here, and that is a very good question. A little less strategic than we were just talking about, but we should of course focus on producing blog content for promoting our online stores and services. Well, it's interesting, Eric, that you write that as an assumption, since that's not an assumption for most people, by the way. But all right, I'm glad it is for you. That's awesome. We should promote this content via social media outlets, and there's a variety of reasons for that. That's also true. So you've obviously gotten a good dose of our religion, so way to go. However, my question is, how much should we focus on third-party outlets, that is, say, having content elsewhere that links to our blog or store? There lies potentially a slippery slope, because Matt Cutts, does he even still work at Google? I've kind of lost track.
I don't think so.
Gets a paycheck.
Okay, well that's good.
But something like that.
But yeah, I mean, he's even said that guest blogging, if you overdo it, can be a problem. And so, and I think that.
And overdoing it is a lot less than you think.
Yeah, that's the problem. So what we'd rather see is that people pick that up and commented about it, quote unquote, naturally. So rather than pushing content to other blogs, we prefer you don't do that.
Well, now that it's so easy to just go throw a few dollars at Facebook and drive an audience directly to the content on your site, I don't know why you'd want to necessarily need to bother with anybody else. Now, if somebody's got a big audience and I can get a guest column, I'm going to write that guest column. I'm also not going to care if that's a no-follow link or not. In fact, I'll suggest they go ahead and slap that on there because I don't care. It's about the people. It's not about the link.
Exactly.
So if you're out there and there are places where you can get in front of the audience that you want to get in front of with content that positions you as an expert and draws people through, great, do it. That's a marketing decision. But don't just, let's not confuse that with the SEO decision, which, in terms of total safety is probably go ahead and ask them to put no follow on the links. And so that's because you created the content and you put it there. If they're going to write about what you wrote, then you don't have to worry about it.
Look at an analogy here. So this happens within our industry. I mean, Dan and I haven't been actually presenting in a little while from stage, but here's a standard thing that happens, right? So you're invited to speak and sell from stage, $2,000 product, and so the guy at the back of the room gets a brand, right? Okay, cool. And as part of the presentation, you go, oh, and you know what? Hey, I've got this free thing for you. Just text to this instant customer, or just send me an email at Leslie Rohde, and I'll give you this great stuff for free, right? I just scrape the audience, and the guy at the back of the room, if he's smart, he's never going to invite me back again. But think about doing that in the context of, oh, gee, let's see if I could get on NBC, or I could get on some really big blog. Let's see, I could post something for Search Engine Land, or whatever, right? And say, oh, and for more information, click here, and they go to my site, and I opt them in. Okay, what have I just done? I scraped their audience, right? And so we look at guest blogging from that perspective. Instead of thinking about, oh my God, I can get this follow link from, whatever, Drudge Report or whatever, right? Don't think about that. Don't count. Go look at the PR. It's like, oh God, it's a PR7 homepage. Who gives a rip? That's not the point.
Humans.
Humans. How big an audience can you scrape? That's it. Can you scrape a big audience?
Right.
That's the point of blog posting.
Yeah, well, Leslie, you know what I used to do way back in the day when email marketing ruled the internet, and search
Well, it was
engines
like
didn't do a
up
damn
until
thing.
midnight tonight, but okay, you're
Well, but I mean, seriously, I mean, like, up until
Mm.
maybe '99, search engines weren't. I mean, you could
Yeah.
ignore them and do other things and do a lot better than spending all your time worrying about search engines. And so we used to buy solo ads in email newsletters, and people would put together these combo deals where you can get a solo ad and all these different ones for they throw them $2,000 and you get a solo ad and all these different newsletters. Well, whichever ones actually produced clicks, I would go back to them and say, hey, I'd like to buy a solo ad, but can we just, instead of like having an ad, can we just run one of my articles? I'll write whatever you want me to write about. And most of the time they didn't actually take my money, and I got so much more out of an article than I could have possibly gotten out of buying all the advertising space they had. It's the same thing. It's who has an audience that's interested in what I've got, right? And so my solo ad would just be, here's the problem that my product solves. So would you like to solve this problem? Click here to learn how. That's it. And just count the clicks there, and not even worry about how many opt-ins I get, because I know I'm going to come back and either buy a solo that's got a dedicated landing page just for that list, or I'm going to be able to run an article potentially for free. And so if you think of guest blogging, in that sense, would I buy an ad on that site? Okay, then I would love to have an article on that site, because that's going to be way more effective than an ad. But again, don't try to get link juice out of it. You don't need that. You're going to be sending a whole bunch of people, and you're going to be linked to from a place where lots of people are going to see it. You'll get more link juice out of the other links than you get out of that one link. So just slap a no follow on it and let natural happen. Will happen.
Humans. There we go with those humans again.
Yeah, they're pretty wrathful little suckers.
I do get a chance to speak locally quite a bit, and I always have a good time when people ask those kinds of questions. Well, why do you do this for search engines? And I said, I don't do that for search engines. Search engines don't buy anything from me. Humans buy things from me. And so everything we do, and everybody who's on this call knows this, I mean, everything we do at the end of the day is about those humans and not the machines. I mean, I think.
Well, what are the machines built to do? They're built to satisfy the human on the other side, right? Their North Star should be the same as yours.
Yeah, exactly. So
more or less the same, right? I mean, it's like they don't care whether it's you that satisfies that criteria or somebody else, and so you do still have a little bit different goal, but yeah. But no,
yeah. I mean, you might need to build a bigger magnet to make sure their compass points the right direction.
Exactly. Eric says, speaking of dog training, it seems as though Google has trained its users to cut out the middlemen when searching for products. As users seem to be going to Amazon rather than Google. I mean, that's not really true. I mean, if that was true, then you'd say that there was, 100% of all e-commerce was in Amazon, and you wouldn't have the e-commerce marketing association showing these incredible growth numbers for e-commerce in general. It's just not true. I mean, the reality is that some people don't like Amazon, just like they don't like Google. And oh, by the way, Amazon looks like it has everything. Yeah, not so much. I mean, I'm an Amazon fanboy probably more than anyone else, and there are some things I just don't buy in Amazon. They just don't have, that silo, of products. And so, do I use Amazon to do product research when I'm trying to look at? Hell yes. I mean, why would you not? But is that the only game in town in e-commerce? No. And here's the thing. The further we've talked about this, I know 2, 3, 4, I can't remember when it was, Hangouts back. When you go out into the wider part of the funnel, Amazon's not there. They have a very good narrow part of the funnel. They have nothing in the wide part except what happens by accident because of customer reviews. And so if you, instead of trying to be a store that competes with Amazon, which, by the way, give that up right now. If that's your model, stop and go get a damn job, right? Because that's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. But instead, if you want to be the go-to person, guy or gal, in any particular niche, right, you will attract those people before they do a product search that shows them Amazon. That's the key.
Right.
The only thing wrong with your store is it's still a store. Stores were great for the 90s and early 2000s. Stores don't work right now. people who are recommenders, people who are experts, who are the gurus for a particular narrow piece of the market, that's where you need to be. And if you're not willing to be there, I mean, as one of our clients we're working with right now, frankly, I don't tell his name, it's like he's not willing to go there. It's like, well, okay, your store's going to fail. Slow or fast, I don't know, but you either have to decide to be that person who stands for that particular niche in your market, or you decide to just close up shop and sell the damn thing. Those are your choices. Okay, another rant.
And do you know the percent, Leslie, supposedly that Amazon has of market share right now?
No clue.
23%. That's not all. That's 77% from all.
And so that's 23% of all online sales.
Of online retail sales.
Yeah, and you see that
and that's not even all sales.
Right, that's the other thing. So I don't remember the number, but the actual, despite the fact that online is where everyone buys, that's not true either.
Mm-mm.
Right? And so
Not
the percentage, you know, the online versus offline continues to grow. So the reality is, it's like if you look at, you know, what's the percentage of sales which are online versus the percentage of, you know, the growth online outside of Amazon is still really huge numbers, mind-bogglingly big numbers, you know. So Carl Sagan kind of numbers. So
it's not that there isn't a huge market opportunity still. It's just the idea that you can come in and just be me too.
No more.
No, not anymore.
We finished that in 2009. Wrap that up.
Yeah, maybe you're
Put
right.
that in the stinky trash.
But you know, I mean, if you have a well-built Me Too, I can still run Google Shopping ads to it. You know, I can, you know, there's still a lot of things that you can do, but you better be planning on how you're going to make it better and make it more useful to the people that you're selling to, and you know, particularly trying to be there for them before they're making the decision to buy, before they're ready to buy, helping them with the research stages, because they're not getting much of that from the big players, because they're not even trying to. That's where you can add value that they can't. I mean, there are a few categories on Amazon where they've had, you know, from time to time, you know, really good editors for the category. So gaming computer systems, they had a really good editor for a while and lots of great content, but, you know, nobody's added to that in a long time, so whoever it was is gone, right? And, you know, that's something that they just got lucky that they had a person that went above and beyond. It wasn't really part of any strategic intent by the company. And, you know, with the numbers that they're pulling, I don't think that they're going to be worried about that anytime soon. You know, their growth looks great, yay, but the market keeps getting bigger. So there's still room there, but you know, you got to take it serious, and you got to take, you know, modern website, modern design, you know, responsive and stuff like that seriously, and not just say I can throw up, you know, any old rinky-dink store and expect that to work, because it just doesn't anymore. It doesn't meet people's expectations at all.
Well, it's very customized now. I mean, you look at a lot of the social side of shopping, and you're really slivering out these boutique-y, very niche. As if we were niche before, it's the niche of the niche in a lot of ways, because you're finding this little group of people who buy for children, like you look at Lolly Wally Doodle, selling for mom and kids, but it's little girls, sometimes little boys, age, you know, 18 months to 7 years old. I mean, and that's it, and that's the market for them. And there's a huge market because, amazingly, everybody keeps having babies. So as they age out on one end, they're getting more people in on the other end.
Yeah, as Danny said, you know, it's like 1 in a million is still a big business on the internet. Right?
Yes, and that's kind of still my threshold of, you know, if 1 in a million people would be interested in this, I probably could give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's still a 7-figure business, right?
And, you know, by the way, I mean, there's, you know, the 1,000 true fans, and that's not even 1 in a million. That's less than that. So, you know, but so we had another question from Andy that I want to talk about real quick. It was about AdWords, and so what can you do if there is a low searcher impression volume, meaning it would take, let's say, 3 months to get statistical validation? So this is about ad tests. How long would you wait until switching ad copy? Once a week or every 100 impressions? What I would do is serial test as many ads as I can in as many places as I can, and try and learn something about what elements that you might find in common. So what points on the value triangle are you hitting? So am I emphasizing speed? Am I emphasizing quality? Am I emphasizing, you know, experience, or, you know, am I emphasizing cost? And so that I would really recommend not, if you don't have enough flow there to split test faster than 3 months, then serial test and try to hit home runs, right? Try and find an ad that does twice as well as the last one. And it's in low volume conditions, right? If you've got to hit a home run to score, so swing for the fences because you're only going to get so many chances, right? So you wouldn't go into the home run derby at the baseball all-star game, and that's an American thing from America, folks, but it's an American thing from America, and I'm from America, so it's part of my experience. But they have this thing every year called the home run derby. They throw pitches and they try and knock it over the fences. If some guy tries to get on base, and you hit singles, and no, right? Swing for the fences, and that's what you got to do here. You're only going to get so many cracks at it. It might take a month to even feel anything about how one is doing. But serial test. It's the only case that I can think of off the top of my head where I'd yell at you for not split testing. But if you can't split test, then try and beat the what you've done before, and just keep track over time. You might get to a place where you've got 2 or 3 that look really good, and then it's okay to put them in there for a few months and let them split test against each other. And you'll probably find that one of them is a really clear winner. And if not, well, then it's okay to have 2 ads that are doing well, or have 3 ads that are doing well. But it's better than having 2 ads that aren't doing very well, and we're going to wait 3 months to find out if we should kill them. If you're not hitting the numbers that you need to hit, or even coming close, then new ad anyway.
Indeed. Yeah. And so there's kind of almost it's sort of a related question about FB ads. And so, Michelle, you want to take that last question?
Okay, hang on.
As soon as you read it.
How about this one? This question comes from Andy.
Yes.
How about testing Facebook ads to a direct offer? I'm not sure if that's representative data, since my general understanding is to do promoting posts, sending traffic to a free offer before asking for a sale. So my answer is test that.
Well, is this in terms of market research?
Right.
You don't actually have to get them to take the offer. You just have to get them to click something that says they want the offer.
Right.
And then you can send them off to freaking Amazon if you want to. You already got the data that you wanted. But obviously not something you'd want to do later. And that's if we're talking about this in terms of market research, and I think we are, because Andy was talking about market research before. So right. I think this was in response to Leslie talking about gathering some data. So I think if you think about it from the perspective of starting with a customer avatar, who's that avatar? You target that avatar. You send people directly to an offer. It really doesn't matter that the offer closes. In fact, your landing page should really be here's why you'd want this thing. Click here to get it, and then it can take them to whatever, because it just doesn't matter. Well, let's stay within Facebook's rules, so no sending them off to something Facebook would be mad about. But
Andy says yes really, for testing purposes.
Yeah, so you just need we used to do this for search ads. Well, I'll do it again if the case comes up. But the one that we had to deal with was we had a friend of ours who's not a friend of ours anymore, and not a friend to anyone. And if you ever meet him, you should shun him.
Moving on.
But they had done some keyword research and found out there was a whole bunch of search volume for electric scooters. And so being over in China and having an opportunity to go ahead and place an order for a bunch of electric scooters, toy kids scooters, and then registering the domain and blah blah blah, then to find out the AdWords wasn't working very well for them because, well, as I found out pretty quickly, that was people searching for mobility scooters that wanted to get around, and they did not care. Grandma does not care that sucker's going to go 35 miles an hour and it's street legal, okay? No, she's not interested in getting on that contraption.
Opposite end of the age spectrum, in fact.
And so we ran AdWords ads that took to what I just called the disambiguation page, because I couldn't think of a better, like a short word for it. That's why Leslie will write headlines like fully disclosed case study instead of just proof. Same thing happens to me, but we just had, how can we help you? And one was a picture of, grandma on a scooter, and the other one was a picture of a kid on a toy scooter, and just counted up how many people clicked which one on that landing page, and we sent them, one of them went to their site, and one of them went to somebody else's site that had agreed to pay us for the traffic. And sure enough, 70–80% of them were clicking on the mobility scooter. And so that told us that, well, one, you're in the wrong business here if you thought that the search for that keyword was going to make it happen. And two, it's really a shame that you've got a shipping container full of these things on the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, you really just need to,
Massive fail.
You just need to ask the question and get an answer to get good market research done. I mean, Kickstarter, if you could do a version of Kickstarter where it's just, would you fund this if like we could actually prove that we weren't scam artists? Yes or no? And would you pay $300 for something that did this? Yes or no? It just, if 99% of the people you're targeting say no, then you either got the avatar wrong or you've got the offer wrong. And you don't actually have to make the offer to find that out. So it's a survey.
Yeah, yeah, that would be the way to do that. Okay, and although that's interesting, I mean, people have gotten, by the way, Kickstarter, they have gotten really good research back from Kickstarter, right? They try to do the Kickstarter and they get 20% of their goal and go, oops, okay, not a business after all.
And nobody actually funds the one where you get one. They just throw the dollar in because it's an impressive Kickstarter page. But yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is, that money gets returned. Get it, and then you go on with life, right? Whereas you can get.
You still have all the data, though. You
exactly.
Learn something.
I mean, so it's kind of a sort of a crazy idea. But the thing is that something is treating your idea seriously, Dan, for a moment. I know that's kind of weird.
Well, that was a serious idea.
It only works. Kickstarter only works for certain kinds of products, and so I don't want everybody to go run out there and figure out.
Right, but the thing is, you can do the same thing Kickstarter does. Is would you fund it? Right? You do that with a landing page. You don't need Kickstarter to build a platform. There's WordPress.
And that used to be taught a lot more in the IM space. Is to put that, kind of make an offer and then say, oh, gee, we had production problems, or gosh, it's backward, or whatever. You got to be careful about that.
Don't be stupid and fraudulent.
The FTC is kind of picky about that.
Don't lie to people. Just ask the question.
Right, and the problem is you'll get a lot of different responses. You say sign up for the early bird list, then you will get purchase now. So you got to understand the different psychology about what people are doing there. So just bear that in mind. Is that testing markets? That's the reason the whole kind of lead with an affiliate offer first, and then to go build your own product. That's the reason it works so well, because you really are you're showing the same kind of transaction. Sure, there's a change of website. There's some branding differences. Okay, I got it. Right, there are some differences from doing it all yourself in your own card on your own site. But at least the person is actually paying real money and getting a real product. And all you have to do is make that better by replacing.
Yeah, I think if you've got a whole bunch of markets that you're trying to, decide between, you might run simple survey-type testing to figure out which one do I want to actually throw more at, right? Because I can do a survey super cheap between, some different ideas, some different offers, and figure out what's this group, and it's a relative comparison between this offer and that offer with the same audience. Well, okay, now I can test, and validate, will they actually open up the wallet by sending people to an affiliate offer for that, but I don't have to, do the other one first. I don't have to do them all at that level of commitment. I don't have to invest the same amount. So doing a little bit, kind of successively increasing the investment in the test until you actually increase the investment all the way to I'm going all in and I'm going into this business. I think that's the way to do it, because you're going to have to probe around markets and figure out what, you're going to spot a lot of opportunities. If you're coming into a market with fresh eyes, you're going to see things where people aren't well served, or markets that are underserved, or other opportunities that you spot, and that's why you're going into the market, because you think there's an opportunity. And so you can start to test that hypothesis by surveying, but yeah, Leslie, absolutely. If you don't, at some point, you're going to go all in and ask them to open their wallet, or you may as well ask them to open their wallet for something where you don't have to build all the infrastructure and put products in warehouses.
Committed to build a product, right? I mean, build a product in front and then
build or buy or whatever, right? I mean,
it's
easier to do it with somebody else's store than my store.
Sure.
It's easy to drive traffic to an Amazon offer, relatively speaking, right? And just send people to an Amazon product and see if they buy it.
you guys mentioned Kickstarter. I wanted to throw something out there too. We just had a big crowdfunding thing here, and one of the things that just I cracked up from the stage, but I hadn't thought of it this way until I saw them, and people were asking, well, how far in advance before I launch my Kickstarter do I need to be doing things? And they said, well, you should be building your list for at least 6 months before you ever launch your Kickstarter campaign. And so they are using an entire internet marketing play, list building, getting all that prepped and ready before you ever begin the Kickstarter, so that you can leverage having 100 people or 100,000 people or 50 people who want what it is you're selling long before you ever turn on that Kickstarter. And it's still the same thing, right? It's still exactly the same thing you just said. Are there people who want it, and here's how you can test it? So
yeah, I think building a list and creating something with at least the appearance of a collaborative design process with the audience, right? I mean, should the buttons be on the left or on the right? What do we, how do we do this? How do we do that? Even if you already figured out what the answers are going to be, that's fine. And somebody will suggest the answer, and then you'll be able to give them credit for it. But that's also something that's really, I think, ideal for a Facebook group. And when I say I think that, I mean I believe in enough to have kind of put my money where my mouth is. I mean I'm working on pay-per-click fast start to kind of boil down and describe the stuff that we do for people with AdWords. And I've got a Facebook group that I've created so that as I have questions about should it be in this format, should it be in that format, but also to throw out samples and stuff like that. Obviously I'm doing that because I really want these people's help. I really want PPC practitioners to help me write the best book I can. But also, I mean, when it comes time to actually launch the thing as a public product and not just something that's going on in a Facebook group into a mailing list, I've got a large group of evangelists there at that point, which for something like a Kickstarter, like if I were going to try and turn it into a series of oil paintings of my book, and that for only $99 you could get a copy of the book, but not the paintings, and for $10,000 you can get the painting. I'm trying to figure out how to just fund everything on Kickstarter. But
we'll look at that later. But in the meantime, you should actually post the link to that group, by the way, in chat for folks who are listening to this. But let's see, and yet another question. I'm a little lost on your content marketing architecture. So this is a little bit more detailed than what we were talking about. That's fine. Let's say I post an abstract on my blog, and then using plumbing, get it posted to Facebook. Would I include a link back to my site or the original source article? The original source article is the answer. Dan, do you want to discuss why is that way? Or would you like me to cover that? And it is actually covered in the system diagrams that I did, I don't know, 2-3 weeks back, something like that.
Go on ahead, Leslie.
Okay. So there are really a couple different things we're doing with the content pyramid. So let's see, since this is all out of focus anyway, so I'll add yet another out of focus thing. We talk about the content pyramid, right? And at the base we have abstracts. Actually, there's in some cases there's stuff below that, and then there's what we call commentary. I mean, both of these are actually in the category that the marketplace calls curation, but it's our own versions, Dan's own versions of curation. And there's a particular way that reason that we separate them. So in particular, abstracts are intended only to build an audience of people and show that yes, these people are interested in this kind of stuff. And so it's a way of attracting and then qualifying a group of people that are interested in what you're interested in, or interested in what you're interested in the way that you're interested. So it's a way of qualifying, this is my voice, and these people kind of share my view of the universe. So think of abstracts kind of a clipping service. And so, I mean, way back in the day, Dan used to actually sell his RSS feed, right? So if I'm reading it, you should be too. That kind of a notion. That's what abstracts are for. And so they actually link to the original along with a piece of content. And the purpose of that piece of content, 50 to 100 words, is enough information so that the person who has the view of the world that you do knows whether or not they should go read that or not. Okay? Commentaries are different. It's a little bit longer piece of content and actually does go to your own site, your own blog. And we've gone back and forth in terms of the ratio. What we've settled on right now is 2 abstracts a day and 1 commentary a day. So 2 of the items we post and socialize are actually going somewhere else. 1 of the items we post and socialize is going to your own blog. and that's our minimum service level. For really competitive areas like personal injury law and some stuff like that, it's more like 3 or 4 times that on a weekly basis. So I hope that I hope that explains that. Why are we doing it that way? I mean, that's kind of the implied question. We don't want an abstract. We don't want to write an abstract of an abstract, right? And yet we don't want the abstract to link to a blog post, which is just the abstract. It's just irritating your visitor, right? And so the abstract that's posted on Facebook is identical to what's posted on your blog. No, that's not duplicate content. For those of you who are thinking about asking that question, please don't.
No, and you don't actually have to post that to your blog at all, because its primary purpose is just to serve your social audience. And I mean, the simple thing to do is to have a category for, kind of quick links for people that want to go read stuff, because that will bring people back to your site. But, if people aren't engaging with that stuff on your site, once you've got an audience there, then you might as well not do it at all. It's about the people and not about, some magical SEO structure. And the reason why we post a commentary on the blog and promote that to drive traffic to it is that that's actually something that we think of as a complete standalone piece of content that people would be glad they went to, and if they're interested in reading the longer story that you link to, they will. But a lot of times they'll get everything that they needed out of that commentary, and then they're done. They don't actually have to read the thing once you've told them what to think about it.
Think about it this way, and so the levels of content in the content pyramid, it's about how much of your voice or your brand is exposed at each level. And at the foundation, it's only selection. And notice it's selection. So this is things I selected to be posted based upon who I'm trying to attract with my avatar. And so selection is the first level of who I am, right? So like this particular shirt, okay? This particular shirt is from the American Taekwondo Union. It says something about who I am, right? And the things that you post as links says something about your brand, about who you are. Commentary says a little bit more. Now we're actually providing commentary, oddly enough, in the terminology used, and that says something. This not only links to an item, but it says something about it that's relevant to the market we're trying to serve. Above that are levels of hero content. Maybe they're infographics, maybe they're reviews, maybe there's digest of the 7 things you need to know before doing X, whatever. Those things say a lot about your brand, right? Those are, and those need to be written by the person who is really the core voice of the brand. And so it's only when you get to the apex of the pyramid that we're really talking, it's really all you all the time. The rest of it, it's mostly the web. 10 minutes. Okay, let's see. We have one more question here about PR sculpting, going all the way down to foundations here. Let me read this. We have a WordPress site, good. We have a separate blog also made with WordPress, and which is not the focus of the question. By the way, if you have a WordPress site, we typically combine the blog within the WordPress site rather than make it standalone. That's another question, another issue. We have a category for each main keyword, oh boy, to give weight when we add new posts to these categories. Good, or should we have a WordPress page for each keyword instead? No, category is probably right. The real problem I have is the piece right in front of it, each main keyword. That may be okay, maybe not, depending upon what those are. And so, if your main keywords are things like chemicals, pumps, and filters, if you're pool supplies, that's great.
Maybe.
But if there's 17 of them, warning, Will Robinson, right? There may be an issue. So I can't unqualifiedly say that what you're doing is right. And if you've separated your WordPress blog from your main site, then I have some other questions for you. How are they interlinked? What does the whois data look like? What does the navigation look like on the blog? How commercial is the blog? How often you're updating the blog? What is actually the purpose of adding the blog on a separate domain?
What is the likelihood that your audience, the people you're trying to serve, think of these topics in terms of the keywords that you're targeting? So I mean, are they thinking of it in terms of pool chemicals, or are they thinking about the water quality? Right? Are they thinking about pumps, or are they thinking about maintenance and repair? I think that you might have a tag about pumps in a category and a category about maintenance and repair, and not right. Keywords are not necessarily the way that people think about it, and you want your navigation to make sense to people.
Right, and about where they are in the site, right? So on an e-commerce site, I think there's a little question. If I land on a site that says pool supplies, I don't want to see a category as maintenance and repair. I want to see pumps, right? I mean, if I need to replace
if
pumps,
I'm shopping, that's different than if I'm reading a blog.
Exactly, and
the blog is not about your products and what you sell. The blog is about your people that you serve and what matters to them.
The 7 best drinks to serve poolside.
That's good.
That's a good one, Michelle.
That's right. We should do that list.
We've got an opening for a writer. It's a small cut and pay.
Yeah.
Large cut and pay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah.
So, still a part-time gig.
Sure. Sure. Let me just get one more part-time gig. That'd be great.
That'd be great.
8 hours a day in your life.
Yeah.
So the asker of that question, by the way, you will find that if you email me at, actually everybody can do this, I'm going to post it to everybody. I just posted to everybody a link, and that's, I mean, if you're interested in not just how we do content marketing, I mean, if you like that and missed, our organic profit engine stuff, by the way, you can look in our YouTube channel and you'll find our, the whiteboard video actually in focus for organic profit engine. You can certainly do that. If you'd like to, get the links from me, I'd be happy to send that to you so that you can take a look at that. If you'd like us to do that work for you, totally outsourced, hands-free, we do it all, then by all means, email me there as well. To your particular question about, PR sculpting, that kind of thing, given your domain names for both your main site and your blog, I could probably fairly rapidly formulate an opinion about whether you're gone, on the narrow way or kind of gone off the rails, by the way. And I'd be happy to advise you an email about that. Terry said it's not about the drill, it's about the holes. Yeah, and why you need them. That's to some extent true. Although that's almost the front part. Or that's maybe that's the part of the funnel right before the narrowest part, right? But really, what we want to do is we want to engage with a group of people who are going to maybe become customers someday, who at least have all the characteristics, demographic and psychographic, to become customers at some point. And so if we're talking about selling drills, and drills create holes, what we're really talking about is we're talking to some combination, probably 2 different avatars. One's professionals and one's the, kind of guy like me that, likes to work in his garage workshop. And so I'm going to create lots of content about garage workshop stuff. And by the way, I sell drills, and that's going to be probably the right rail of my blog. It's all about, weekend building activities. Okay, and so. Don't think about, I'm selling holes instead of drills. That's too late in the funnel. Think about who is it that needs holes. Wow, did that turn out wrong? It's like, who is it that needs to drill holes in things, right? Well, it's the person that likes to build stuff, and you're going to need to create holes in metal and wood, and that means you're going to need a drill. But only at the point in time after I've already engaged with you about, hey, there's this great little piece of furniture you could build, or let's build a birdhouse, or whatever, right? Whatever that
17 things to build with pallets.
Yeah, exactly. Something bizarre like that, right?
Yeah.
Make a fort out of horse poo.
Yeah.
Sorry, thinking of a project you could work on very easily with materials at hand.
Materials at hand, yes.
Literally.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, we've gone a little bit long. We're at 20 minutes after, so yeah, wow, we're in 80 minutes. So Any last thoughts before we close it out? Michelle?
Good times.
Good times. Okay, 7 poolside drinks. Work on that. Dan?
I already know them, dear. I don't have to.
Okay, well, we need to crowdsource that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's a Kickstarter. And so, Dan, you know,
Other than we really haven't thought of what we're going to do next week, but I think we might want to do Q&A about a topic rather than a general Q&A next week.
maybe so. Well,
if we can do an AdWords Q&A, I can invite a bunch of cool kids to come.
Okay.
We always want cool kids at the party.
Yeah, and instead of just open Q&A, let's make sure that we have something prepared in terms of big messages, things that people can take away.
Yes.
But yeah, let's talk about that over the next couple of days. Come up with something, and we'll email you. Those of you who are accustomed to us emailing you, you'll get that email.
And Leslie will take a picture of his whiteboard so you can see what it actually says.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that's actually
true.
true.
To post on the blog anyway with the transcript and the video. So.
Indeed. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, very good. Thanks everybody for hanging in there, and
Thanks,
we will
guys.
see you next Tuesday.
On time.
Same bat time, same bat channel. So,
On time.
Bye now. Take care.